Regular season of high school football is in the books. The Pelham Panthers season, unfortunately, has ended, but we are going to continue talking high school football here as week one. A lot of games tonight due to incoming weather. So we're going to run you through 10 games. We're going to do 5 quick picks. A lot of football action here in the AHSAA this weekend. KO Kyle O'Neill, Brenna Vickery here with you. I am Justin Foster, and we're going to start with very familiar team here in this discussion. Really two familiar teams. A couple years ago, Pelham Panthers headed to St. Paul's in a second-round matchup. St. Paul's this time coming up our way to take on the Helena Huskies. St. Paul is a regular in the playoffs, 15 straight appearances. These teams have only met one time before. It was a blowout, St. Paul's 57, Helena 14. Brenna, we'll start with you. Huskies have really gained steam as the season's progressed. They've, I think, found their identity running the football, very physical brand. Coach Busby, that's the way he wants to play, and that's the way they're playing right now. St. Paul's, though, a tough first-round opponent. Who you got in this first-round matchup?
So St. Paul's did lose to Spanish Fort last week, but they have been very competitive against teams like McGill-Tulane, and they even kept it close with Saraland. For me, Helena does have the more aggressive offense, but they kind of rely on Jeremy Spratling, and the St. Paul's defense is allowing only 10 points per game. So in my opinion, I think that St. Paul's, their defense will be able to take that away, take that receiving core away, and I think that St. Paul's will get the win on the road.
KO?
Yeah, Helena's had a great season, but I like what you said about the St. Paul's defense. Like you said, they're only giving up 10 points per game, and they only gave up 19 to Saraland. Helena's scoring 35 per game, but you look when the last time they played an elite defense in Oxford, they only averaged 3.7 yards per carry. So I think St. Paul's will be able to contain them just like Oxford did, and I think they'll be able to get the win on the road.
Man, so, this has kind of been a trend with Helena in a good year. They fall short in that postseason. I think at some point they're going to make some kind of run. This is really, really tough one for a first-round matchup. Two really good teams that I feel like could make a run if they get past this first game. I do like Helena at home. I think that the long drive for St. Paul's, that's always something to adjust to. They're very used to being in this situation. So I do think it'll be very low scoring, goes into the fourth quarter. I just think those seniors of Helena, look at Torrey Ward on the outside, big physical receiver. He can make some plays. Nate Ferguson's gotten better with his legs, making plays, playing within the game. Big physical line, Jeremy Spratling, you mentioned the name.
Yeah.
But they've got a lot of backs who can get it done, so I do think Helena finds a way to get this one done and advance into round 2. But this one would not surprise me either way. St. Paul's certainly capable. We got a taste of that a couple years ago going down there. That's a team with tradition, and wouldn't surprise me either way. Moving on, Benjamin Russell, a team that I feel like has been a roller coaster all season long. They head to Spanish Fort, another region matchup similar to the Helena St. Paul's. Again, you match up with these Mobile teams, it is just so tough, and you really find out the narrative about these different regions, about who's for real. Benjamin Russell certainly has looked for real, KO. At times this year, Spanish Fort certainly a big-time tough matchup in round 1. Can they go down and maybe spring an upset?
Well, they've looked good at times, but they also haven't looked good at times when they're playing really good, better defenses. They've put up some really low offensive numbers, and that doesn't bode well for them going up against a Spanish Fort team that's only allowing 15 points per game. And Spanish Fort's coming off a really impressive 27-13 win against St. Paul's. They've got a very run-heavy offense. Their quarterback and their running back have combined for more than 1.5 thousand rushing yards and 19 touchdowns. So I'm going to go with Spanish Fort to get the win at home.
Brenna?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I do think Ben Russell lost to Percy Julian last week, but they did have 2 consecutive shutouts before that. When you look at their offenses, the Spanish Fort offense is barely outscoring Ben Russell. They're averaging 29.7 points a game, whereas Ben Russell is averaging 28.4, which could make that interesting. And then you look back at, like you said, with Spanish Fort, they have a lot of depth with their running back core, and their quarterback is able to run the ball well. But in my opinion, they have the more well-rounded offense, and they're more equipped to score. So I'm going Spanish Fort also.
I think the interesting thing in this matchup, you both pick Spanish Fort. Who's the best player on the field likely in this game?
Sedarian Morgan.
Probably running wide receiver for Benjamin Russell, Sedarian Morgan. Big-time playmaker. It's always interesting to see what these kind of guys do on this big stage. Is he going to be able to come in and just take over and have that kind of special game? I don't think so. I think they go down. Spanish Fort, more well-rounded. Tradition, obviously, a factor in this too. And again, going on the road is tough. going on the road and playing a really good opponent when you've been up and down is even tougher. If you get the best version of Benjamin Russell, I think they can keep it close. If they don't show up 100%, I think they get blown out. Either way, I think they lose this game. Give me Spanish for it.
Yeah.
Chelsea at Saraland. This one pretty one-sided. I think any way you look at it. Saraland outscoring opponents 42-11, 14 consecutive playoff appearances, back-to-back championship appearances. They won state 2 years ago. Brenna, Chelsea, you can pray on the bus all the way down. Anything else they can do to prepare for this and possibly get an upset?
No, I don't think so. And we talked about this last week. I had full faith in Chelsea to turn their season back around, beat Ben Russell, and they did not score, like we said. But for me, I'm not picking Chelsea again for the rest of their season, which won't matter much because their season will end when they face off against Saraland. Saraland, I don't think they'll make it get too ugly just because I think they have bigger plans than winning a first week game. But I do think it has the potential to get that way.
KO?
Yeah, it's a pretty easy pick. You've got a Chelsea team that's lost 4 games in a row, and now they have to go play the #1 team in the country. They've got KJ Lacey, who's averaging 250 yards per game. I think they win big tonight.
I do think it's going to get ugly. I don't think Chelsea's really just declined as the season progressed. Again, I think I've mentioned this, they're kind of like the anti-Homewood. Just 4 straight losses. They've kind of been figured out. They lost to Oak Mountain. I thought that would be a blowout. They did keep it close, and Oak Mountain able to win it at the end. I just don't like a team losing going into the playoffs. I think the luster is off of Chelsea. I think they get blown out in this one. Saraland certainly on a path to bigger things. This one is an interesting one to me. McGill-Tulane going to Spain Park. Spain Park 10-0 for the first time in school history. McGill-Tulane again in that Mobile area, that region. Very, very tough top to bottom. You see them beat up on each other. Spain Park seems like the better team, but McGill's battle tested. They've certainly been in these situations. Can they come to Spain Park and really disappoint Spain Park for their season and put them out in the first round?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think McGill has losses to St. Paul's and Daphne, which is pretty interesting because most of the teams in that Mobile region have had better results against those opponents. I think that Spain Park, they're undefeated. They've absolutely cruised through their regular season. I think they've been preparing for this game for a long time. They haven't had to worry about their last couple of opponents that much. They're more experienced. They're more dominant. I think they will definitely get the win at home.
KO?
Yeah, an interesting note, these 2 teams' only ever matchup was in the 2015 state championship game where McGill-Tulane beat Spain Park to win the state championship, their only ever state championship, but I don't think it'll go that same way tonight. We mentioned McGill, they've only averaged 10 points per game in their losses tonight. They're going to need a lot more than that to beat the Spain Park team. That is a very good defense, obviously a very good offense. They've got Brock Bradley, who has eclipsed 2,000 yards, and Corey Barber, who has eclipsed 1,000 receiving yards, so I think Spain Park wins comfortably tonight.
I think if you get a slow start, this one might be one of those Spain Park starts sweating in the third quarter just because it's not going the way that they would think. But I do think talent wins out in this one. A very well-rounded Spain Park team. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. Big and physical defensive line. They've got all the pieces to make a deep run. I do not think McGill is going to be able to keep up for 4 quarters. But again, McGill has been there. They understand what it's like to win in the playoffs. Come on the road. Again, this is an opponent that the Panthers all too familiar. They came here, ran all over Pelham, and put us out in the first round several years back. So McGill capable, but Spain Park, one of the best teams in the state. I think they win comfortably. Yeah. Daphne at Thompson. I think this one's interesting. Thompson is Thompson. That's the team that everybody looks to, sort of the picture of greatness in 7A. They've been in the state championship over and over again. They won 4 in a row to 22. Yeah. Some of the luster coming off this year. 3 losses, very, very close losses. KO, can Daphne, this may be before y'all's time. Brenna may know about this more, but Daphne, a lot of tradition there as well. Can they sort of get that back and upset Thompson tonight?
I think they have a chance, but the thing about Thompson, their defense has still been just as good as it's been in the past 5 or so years, but it's been their offense that has kind of been holding them back. So I think they're able to win tonight. You've got a Daphne team that only has 1 win against a team with a winning record, but Thompson, they need to get their offense going because if they win, they'll likely play the #1 team in the state, Auburn, next week.
Brenna?
Yeah, I do remember, or don't remember very clearly, but I was there last time Daphne won the state championship in 2010. I remember it being very cold, but that's about all I got. I don't think they'll make it as far this year. I think that they don't have the most dynamic offense. They have sophomore quarterback who's scoring majority of their touchdowns. And Thompson, to me, has had the tougher schedule, and they played well against good opponents like Hoover, like Clay. They've already faced off against them. Daphne hasn't really seen that level of competition. They're on the road. they'll be here Friday, actually walking through here at Pelham. But I don't think that they'll be able to get comfortable enough to get that win against a great team like Thompson.
Yeah, I think Thompson, the record is a little deceptive. I mean, you have 3 losses, but those are all really, really tough teams that they played.
Yeah.
Certainly capable of beating anybody. I think they comfortably take care of Daphne, although that offense, if they get stuck in the mud, you could see things get interesting. I just don't think it happens in the first round with Daphne. Fairhope headed to number 2, Hoover. Hoover, the 1 seed in that region. Can Fairhope, again, team down South Alabama coming up this way, any hope of them upsetting Hoover, Brenna?
This is what I have to say about that. Fairhope quarterback, senior quarterback, Jackson Robertson, shout out him, oldest friend that I have to this day. Never bet against him, and that's done pretty well with that. So I'm gonna go Fairhope just because I have a lot of loyalty to that team. I think Hoover is very competitive, but who knows? Everything's impossible. I mean, everything's possible, even the impossible. So maybe they'll come out and surprise us all tonight.
Hey, I love the bias. KO, are you going with the upset?
Well, I also have a shout out to make my dad. He was an all-county offensive lineman for Fairhope back in his day, but that shout out is not going to lead me to pick Fairhope. I'm still going to go with Hoover. They have 26 consecutive first-round wins in the playoffs, and I think they make it 27.
Hey, I love Fairhope. Beautiful place. Love to visit. Wonderful community. But yeah, Hoover wins this. I don't know how comfortable that is. Fairhope 3-20 on the road in the first round. Hoover 28-3 at home. I think that trend continues. And what a resilient season from Hoover. I mean, the off-season stuff, just a mess. They lose their coach right before the season, and they have just rallied around each other, rallied around their coaching staff, and they are right here number 2 in the state and a chance to make a deep run. I think it continues tonight or tomorrow, and I think they take care of Fairhope. Vestavia Hills at number 3, Mary Montgomery. Vestavia has kind of found a little mojo as the season progressed. They've been competitive, even some losses, and I think they found some confidence to close this season. Is that confidence enough to go to number 3 and win?
No, I don't think so. I think Vestavia had a lot of potential. I don't know that they necessarily lived up to it this season. I don't think that they'll be able to compete with, these really competitive Mobile teams. We've seen them fall short to competitive opponents time after time. They got that win last week against Clay, which I was astonished by, but I think that was a little bit of a fluke. I don't think that Clay was, I think they had their attention set on the postseason. I don't think they were maybe showing up for that game as much as they should have. Possibly had non-starters in for that. I don't think Vestavia will get the win on the road.
KO.
Well, you've got a Vestavia team that's 5-5 and a Mary Montgomery team that's 9-1. But I think these records are a little deceiving. Mary Montgomery's opponents are 38-51 on the year. While we mentioned Vestavia, all 5 of their losses are coming to top 10 teams. So I'm actually going to go with them to pull off the upset. I'm not quite sure who Clay had in last week, but either way, that's a big win for them to win by 2 touchdowns against them. So I'm going to pick them to continue that momentum and get a win on the road.
I got the upset too. I think Vestavia, again, I don't totally know why. I'm going to pick on vibes a lot of the time. But what is it, the Fijis and the ATOs or whatever the coach said?
Oh, the Pike.
The Pikes and the Fijis and stuff. Look, Vestavia plays really tough teams. They've competed in those. It is really hard to win those. Look at Thompson. You lose 3 games to a really good opponent. So it is deceptive. I agree with KO. It's going to be tough, but we always see every single year these first rounds, you see some wonky things, and I think I roll of the dice. I think this might be one of them. Vestavia, tough, battle-tested, playing probably their best ball right now. I think they pull off the upset. Athens heads to number 7, Homewood. Both teams ranked top 15 in 6A for points scored and points allowed. So 2 balanced teams. Again, I'm a big Homewood guy. Always feel like they're playing their best at this time. Brenna, can Athens come in and end their season before it gets too cold?
But yeah, Athens, they haven't had many big losses. They do have losses to Hartselle and Muscle Shoals, but those are 2 competitive teams, and the scores are pretty close. Their offense is averaging 38.5s a game. But when you look at Homewood, their losses are to Mountain Brook and Parker, which are arguably more competitive teams than Hartselle and Muscle Shoals. Their defense has been very consistent. They've held 7 teams to less than 10 points. And to me, they have more depth. They have a more dynamic offense. They have Kylan Jalen Newell, wide receiver, leading that, along with running back Evan Osmer. I don't even know how to say that. But he has 13 total touchdowns over the season. So I think Homewood is more well-rounded, more prepared, and yeah, I think they're going to get the win at home.
KO?
Yeah, I like that pick. I agree with everything you said. You've got Evan Osmer and Will Myers, the quarterback, who have combined for 20 rushing touchdowns this year. Homewood, they're 17-3 at home in the first round. I think this is going to be a really close game. I think either team could win it, but I'm going to pick Homewood to win.
That Homewood atmosphere is a good one. You get to the postseason, it's even better. I think that atmosphere, the heat with which this team's playing, they're very hot at the right time. Homewood comes away with a win, probably fairly close, but I think kind of in fourth quarter they'll make enough plays that it's comfortable, doesn't get too tricky for them. Number 5, Mountain Brook heads to Southside Gadsden. You always have these where kind of feel like the better team has to travel just based on some of these imbalanced regions and such. This certainly feels like that, but Southside Gadsden, Brenna, can they hang with the Spartans?
I do not think so. They have losses to Fort Payne and Pell City, who are definitely less competitive than Mountain Brook. Mountain Brook is coming off 3 consecutive wins. They put up 47 on Pinson, 42 on Huffman, and 37 on Shades Valley, and they held Huffman and Shades Valley both to 0 points. Their losses are to really competitive teams like Clay and Oxford, but Southside Gadsden is definitely not on that level. I think they're comfortable in this one. It is on the road, but I think that they'll be able to come out on top pretty easily.
KO?
Yeah, Mountain Brook's led by running back Stuart Andrews, who has nearly 1,600 yards on the season. I think it's going to be tough for Southside Gadsden to slow him down after they gave up 45 points to Pell City last week. I think Mountain Brook wins big on the road tonight.
Yeah, I don't think this one's close at all. Again, Pell City, saw them earlier in the season. Certainly some talent on that team, but a little bit one-dimensional to go and get dominated to 45-7. I don't think Mountain Brook's going to be anything that they want to see. So give me Mountain Brook and give me Mountain Brook big. This one is one I was like, we got to have this on the docket. Citronelle at Shelby County going down to 5A. Shelby County 8-2. They went 2-9 a year ago. 2-8 and in the playoffs a year ago. So much improved, even though they were in the playoffs. Citronelle, this battle of 2 8-2 teams. Your thoughts, Brenna? Can Shelby County continue a nice season and go to round 2?
I don't really have many thoughts on this game. I think it would be a very interesting atmosphere to be a part of. I think these are very two communities that are very similar. I did go with Citronelle in this just because that is got some family down there. That's where my mom grew up. So she encouraged me to pick them. I don't know that they are necessarily the more skilled team, but I'm picking off vibes. I like Citronelle. It's a fun word to say, so I'm going with them.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Citronelle. Both of their losses are to 2 top 10 teams, and Shelby County has not played a top 10 team yet this year. They're a very physical team. They're averaging nearly 6 yards per carry, and they've got 4 players on the defense with more than 88 tackles. So I'm going to go with Citronelle to get the win.
Man, oh man. They were my rival growing up, one of them, and every time they came to play us in basketball, we got embarrassed. I guess we were kind of that automatic win on the schedule. I know a lot about Shelby County. It is one of those things, you get to a certain point, you start pulling for those teams. Pull for Calera. Those who've watched our pregame all season know that's probably there. They never got that big win that I thought.
No.
It's nice to see Shelby County turning the corner. They really struggled. See them go 8-2. Quarterback he transferred from up north. It's just been a cool story. I think they get the win. I do think Shelby County, cool atmosphere, nice 5A vibe, smaller type of school, and I think they keep the season going 9-2 into next week. But I do love the next Citronelle.
Yes, exactly.
It does sound good.
They have a very talented music group came out of Citronelle High School that I need to show you after we stop streaming.
What's it? Okay.
Very interesting.
Can we
Go
not
look
shout
it up.
them out?
I forget the name, but they're pretty cool.
Well, we could have shouted them out.
Sorry.
All right, we're going to roll through a couple of picks a little quicker. Bob Jones at number 1, Auburn. Auburn's undefeated,
Yes.
not the college. Both of these teams average more than 40 points. Any chance Bob Jones can keep up with number 1, KO?
No, Auburn's number 1, and they're number 1 for a reason. I'm going with Auburn.
Brenner?
I agree. Bob Jones has a pretty unfortunate loss to James Clemens, who most of these teams that we're seeing in the first round have beat pretty easily. Again, with Auburn, they're averaging 45.3 points per game. I don't think that that's going to be much competition from Bob Jones. I'm
picking Auburn. You hadn't heard that much here. Probably won't if we're not talking about high school. But, yeah, give me Auburn High School. Number 1 advances. Moving on, number 7, Hewitt. Number 8, Baker. This one competitive. Both teams 8-2. Hewitt, does seem maybe more battle-tested. Is that bias talking because of the area we are in? Brenna, can Baker come away with this one?
No, I don't think so. I think Hewitt's a more dynamic team. I think they get the win on the road.
KO?
Yeah, their defense giving up less than 10 points per game. They've looked really strong against Thompson, who I'm also going to pick them to get the win.
I am going with Hewitt as well.
Okay.
Give me Hewitt.
Awesome.
Yeah, Hewitt advances, really tough, battle-tested. Agreed there. This one a little more fun since these are two familiar opponents this year. Previous years, not so much. Pell City at Fort Payne, two teams that Panthers played this year, albeit at completely different times. Pell City opened the season, Fort Payne to close. Brenna, who's coming away with this one?
Yeah, I think we saw both of them. To me, Fort Payne looked more physical, more aggressive. I did pick them to get the win at home.
KO?
Yeah, I also went with Fort Payne. I like their coach. We did some research on them last week, so I'm going to go with Fort Payne.
Yeah, make it 3 for 3. I like Fort Payne. I think Pell City physically up front, defensive line really disruptive. If they can do that and get make Fort Payne uncomfortable, I think it could get really interesting. But the pass game, just a little more balance with Fort Payne. Give me Fort Payne at home. Northridge at Russell County. Russell County, y'all don't remember this.
Yep.
Went down there, booked a ticket to the Sweet 16 in basketball a few years back in Northridge. Little familiarity there for Brenna over here. Who's able to come away with this one? Brenna, we'll start with you.
I did go with Northridge. I think that they have been, it's been a long time since they've got a win in the playoffs, and I do think they've been building up to it. We saw them here 2 years ago and gave them a pretty upsetting loss in the first round. But I think the Northridge team, they've been working pretty hard. Shout out Coach Lawley. Love their coach. He's a great guy. I did pick them to get the win on the road. I think they've been working really hard to get a playoff win for the past couple years.
KO?
Yeah, I went with Russell County on this one. They've got a really good offense, averaging 40 points per game, and they're playing at home where they haven't played in a playoff game since 1998, so I'm going to go with them to get the win.
I'm going to go with Northridge. Not really sure who Russell County's playing, the level of quality of those opponents. Certainly, be honest and say I don't know much about their season, but I do like Northridge. I think they're playing probably tougher teams, and think them being on the road is a matter of those opponents in the region, so I like Northridge. Guntersville at number 9 Leeds. Leeds, again, familiar opponent for Pelham Panthers. Guntersville third in their region at 9-1. So are they going to be able to go into Leeds and get the win, KO?
I think they will. I wasn't really impressed with Leeds' defense when we took the trip over there to play them, and that's not going to go too well for them going up against a team that's averaging 41 points per game in Guntersville. So I'm going to go with Guntersville in this one.
Brenna?
I did go with Guntersville as well. I wasn't impressed with Leeds when we saw them either. I think that they're a very messy team. They had penalties, flags thrown every single game. Every single play. I did go with Guntersville to get the win on the road.
This is a tough one. I do think Leeds has talent, a lot of talent, but they're very reliant on one guy. So I'm going to take Guntersville as well. I think Leeds, really good team, but again, I wasn't completely blown away. So Guntersville, 9-1, big time scoring. They go on the road and get the dub. That will do it for us. Final thoughts before we get out of here, guys.
I think we've got some clear front runners for the state championship games in Saraland and Auburn. It'll be really interesting to see a potential Thompson and Auburn game next week.
That's definitely going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Spain Park rolls through this, going down to 6A from 7A. Really great season, but again, I do feel like that pressure ratchets up. They hadn't really been there in the last couple of years, so that's new territory. Brenna, anything?
I'm excited to go watch Fairhope quarterback compile 500 yards tonight against that Hoover defense.
Yeah, Hoover's another story that I think Hoover's really fascinating, just looking at the coaching situation. Can the coaching staff stay focused? You're thrown into that situation. Obviously, that
they're
coach
unfazed, I think. I think they're unfazed.
Probably so, but you've got to think, is he going to be the guy long term? Is that at all on your mind?
Been playing this year, I think.
I certainly think that would be the direction they're leaning. But a lot of intrigue, a lot of stuff going on. That St. Paul Helena, that's another one that really going to be keeping an eye on. Appreciate everybody for joining us. We're going to do this the rest of the way, so you can find it right here on our YouTube channel. We will be live again next week, probably on Friday, depending if we have weather. We pushed it to Thursday today. She is Brenna. He is KO. I am Justin Foster. That'll do it here from PHS Studios.